we recently have some breaking news, and I think we have confirmation from the CEO that Mistral AI, the famous open source AI model that's trying to compete with ChatGPT, has created a competitor to GPT-4. This is really, really interesting. I'll be breaking down everything that happens in this story. This played out on Twitter. This played out on 4chan, some crazy places, some crazy leaks. It's a lot of intrigue, but let's get into it. So essentially these recent developments, I think, that we've seen come on the back of OpenAI, or like all this open source AI stuff has been exploding. People love it because, I mean, this is kind of the original vision of OpenAI before they kind of went to closed AI or becoming a public, or becoming essentially a for-profit business.
Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? I record and publish podcasts on a platform called Spotify for Podcasters, and I absolutely love it. Essentially, you can upload from your phone or computer, and it distributes to every platform that plays podcasts. They support video podcasts, and you can make money on the platform with ads or even podcast subscriptions, something that has made my life so much easier as a podcaster. So if you're interested, I highly recommend you give it a try. You can download the Spotify for Podcast app, or go to spotify.com/podcasters to get started on your podcast today.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
So people are a big fan when these open source AI models are coming out because it feels more like what we wanted the original AI to be from the beginning. So Mistral AI is a very famous, very powerful open source AI model, comes out of France, and they made, news headlines earlier I think last year by essentially releasing an AI model that competed like to a pretty high level with GPT 3.5. But it's not GPT-4, and at the end of the day, like, I want to use what the best AI model is. So this is very interesting to me. So around, I think this was on January 28th, there was a user named Misk Dev who uploaded a LLM called Misk 1-70B on Hugging Face. So Hugging Face is right where you can upload these LLMs and you can use them. So this was a leading AI model and, of course, code sharing platform. That's what Hugging Face is. But this Misk 170B LLM's prompt format is similar to Mistral's. So it's a high-performing open source LLM, which, of course, is developed by this company based out of Paris, Mistral. So, and anyways, the same day, an anonymous user, which is possibly Misk Dev, we don't know exactly, shared a link to Misk 170B files on 4chan. So they uploaded this Hugging Face, they shared the files on 4chan, and essentially everyone on Twitter, or X now, has been talking about Misk 170B and its high performance in common LLM tasks. So people are comparing it to OpenAI's GPT-4 and saying this very well could be a leak. This could be Mistral's GPT-4 competitor. Now, what's interesting here is the fact that, of course, Mistral didn't publicly release this themselves. Somebody leaked this. And a lot of people are saying if this is good or if this is bad. Now, of course, on the open source side, like, this is the whole purpose of Mistral, is that they're releasing these open source models for anyone to use. But a lot of people are also saying, like, at this point, it's costing quite a lot of money. Mistral's got a lot of investors, and they're saying maybe Mistral wants to start locking down some of their higher performing AI models. So there's this whole debate, but it's interesting because, up until this point, no one knows where this came from. So Maxime Lebon, who's an ML scientist at JP Morgan Chase, speculated on LinkedIn whether MEEQ stands for Mistral Quantized, acknowledging essentially that this is very high performing, and he shared a link to an unquantized version. So users suspect right now that Misk might be a leaked new Mistral model, or maybe this is an action by an employee or a customer. But Mistral's co-founder and CEO Arthur Mensch confirmed on X that an over-enthusiastic employee of an early access customer, so essentially they gave early access to someone and they leaked a quantized version of an old model. So Mensch then explained the leaked model was retrained from Meta's Llama 2 and indicated that Mistral had made progress since the model's initial training. So this is interesting, right? Like, essentially, Mistral is admitting this is theirs. something very interesting that they also admitted. Obviously, some very excited early customer or someone else released this thing, but they admitted that this was retrained from Meta's Llama 2, which is interesting. Like, okay, so that's obviously, I think, a big admission there. But they've made a lot of progress. They've changed it a lot themselves, whatever. So essentially, he's saying, like, hey, we got a better version. Mensch also left a comment on the Hugging Face post, suggesting the poster should consider attribution, which is interesting. Like, he didn't, oh, we're going to sue you, or we're going to, like, you shouldn't have posted this, you shouldn't have leaked this. He just said, you should consider attribution. Like, hey, if you got this from us, you should tell people you got this from us. So Mensch then hinted that Mistral might soon release a model matching or exceeding GPT-4's performance, which would be amazing. But like, I think talk is cheap, so I definitely would want to see this before, because I think we had a lot of hype out of Google before releasing Gemini, and a lot of people felt like they got the wool pulled over their eyes with some of their demos and stuff that they did there. So I think the potential release of a GPT-4 class, right? So something as good as GPT-4 but open source model, this could have a huge impact on the AI field. I think this could put a lot of competitive pressure on OpenAI to get their GPT-5 out, because GPT-4, it's great, it's amazing, but if you can get this thing open source, aka free, and use it for anything you want, like it gives a lot of people. It disincentivizes them from paying OpenAI for, I pay a ton for API access for my platform, AI Box, to essentially, like, we're paying OpenAI every time we use GPT-4. But if we could get just as, something just as performant out of Mistral, that's definitely something we would consider. And we already are considering regardless of that, because people just want the option. But in any case, GPT-4 has been a top performing LLM since March of last year, right? So it's beating Google Gemini models. Google Gemini, like, they did some like shady stuff to say that they were like slightly better, but really they like cherry picked data and they showed it all. OpenAI is still beating them with their model that they came out last March. They've had almost an entire year. Google wasn't able to beat it with Gemini. If Mistral can actually beat it with this open source, it's going to be incredibly interesting. So right now, the growth of this open source community, I think, might be a bit of a challenge for OpenAI's dominance in LLMs. This is despite the fact that OpenAI's GPT-4 Turbo and GPT-4 Vision are like absolutely amazing. It's going to be really interesting to see where this goes, to see what kind of progress is made in this realm. I'll definitely keep you up to date on everything that happens, and I'll let you know as soon as Mistral does release this new teased model that apparently is going to compete at a high level or beat GPT-4. It's left to be determined. I'll keep you updated on that.